Begin with the impossible. A white preacher, black coat, worn Bible, the hollow-cheeked face of a man who has been fasting for religious purposes or because he forgot to eat, which, in Elijah Stone's case, were often the same thing, kneeling in a circle of Comanche men and women at first light on the Llano Estacado, his head bowed, his lips moving in what might have been prayer, but was actually the closest thing silence has to speech. A man whose vocabulary for the sacred has been suddenly, catastrophically insufficient. Around him, 23 Comanche sat in a half-circle facing east, where the horizon was turning from ink to rose to gold, with the slow inevitability of a world that had been performing this transformation for 4 billion years and did not plan to stop. In the circle's center, one man sang, old, thin-voiced, the melody rising and falling with the light, as though the song and the sunrise were the same event expressed in different media. If the story of a preacher who quoted scripture to Comanche stars and the dawn chorus that shattered his certainty fascinates you, subscribe now. What this hidden prophet reveals about the sacred will change everything. Reverend Elijah Stone was 45 years old and had been a preacher for 20 of those years. He had preached in churches, in prisons, on street corners, in river camps and, for the last 3 years, on the Comanche frontier, where his particular brand of evangelical Protestantism had been received with the polite indifference that the Comanche reserved for things that were neither dangerous nor useful.
They had no churches, no Bible, no commandments carved in stone. I looked at their camps and saw spiritual absence, a people living in a void, waiting to be filled. I brought the word. I was certain the word was what they needed. I was certain because certainty was my profession.
Jump back 3 weeks before the dawn circle. The Comanche camp on the staked plains, approximately 200 people, 50 lodges, 1,000 horses, the portable capital of a nation that controlled territory larger than most European countries. Reverend Stone arrived on a mule, carrying a Bible in 3 languages: English, Spanish, Comanche, the last translated by a Quaker missionary who had never met a Comanche but had compiled a vocabulary from army interpreters. He was not the first preacher to approach the Comanche. The Comanche had been visited by Catholics, Baptists, Methodists, Quakers and, on one memorable occasion, a Mormon who had lasted 3 days before the heat sent him back to Utah. None had produced a single conversion. The Comanche listened. The Comanche were polite. The Comanche went back to their lodges and their prayers and their relationship with the living world that surrounded them. A relationship that did not require a book or a building or a man in a black coat to mediate. Painted Thunder, War Chief, 48, a man whose authority derived not from hereditary title, but from demonstrated competence in war, diplomacy, and the management of collective survival, received Stone with the hospitality that Comanche culture demanded, and the amusement that Stone's particular brand of zealotry inspired. Stone preached. Under a cottonwood tree at the edge of the camp, he stood with his Bible open and delivered, in halting, poorly translated Comanche, the Gospel according to Matthew. He spoke of salvation. He spoke of sin. He spoke of a God who created the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th. He spoke with the earnest, sweating conviction of a man who genuinely believed he was rescuing souls from darkness. The Comanche listened. Approximately 15 people gathered. Women grinding corn, warriors mending gear, children playing at the edges. They listened the way you listen to rain on a lodge cover, aware of the sound, not particularly engaged by its content. When Stone finished, 10 Bears, the young warrior who served as translator, asked a question.
Your God made the world in 6 days. Our world makes itself every morning. The sun rises, the grass grows, the buffalo move. Your God rested on the 7th day. The world does not rest. The world has never rested. If your God rested and the world continued, what does your God do?
Stone answered. His answer was theological. Grace, providence, the sustaining power of divine will. 10 bears translated. The Comanche nodded politely. The nod was not agreement. It was the Comanche acknowledgement that a guest had spoken and would not be interrupted, regardless of content. Stone preached for 12 days. He preached Genesis, Exodus, Psalms, and the Gospels. He preached sin and salvation, damnation and grace. The Comanche attendance remained constant, approximately 15 people, rotating, the audience of cultural courtesy rather than spiritual hunger. 0 converts.
Black coat. We call you this. It is not unfriendly. You've been speaking for 12 days. You speak well. Your words are interesting. They describe a God who lives far away and sends messages through a book. Our sacred power does not live far away. It lives here, in the grass, in the horse, in the wind, in the water. We do not need a book to communicate with it. We communicate with it by living in it. You are welcome to stay. You are welcome to speak. But you will not change what we know by telling us what you know.
The outsider's frustration. Stone, 3 years of mission work, 0 converts, faced the reality that the Comanche were not resisting Christianity because they lacked understanding. They were declining it because they possessed an alternative that functioned, that sustained, that addressed every spiritual need Stone's gospel promised to fill. Many horses sang at dawn, every dawn. Stone had been hearing the song since his arrival, a pre-sunrise melody that rose from the old medicine man's lodge and spread across the camp like light itself, waking the world with sound the way the sun woke it with light. Stone had dismissed it as chanting, the generic category into which his theology placed all non-Christian sacred sound. On the 14th morning, Stone woke early. Not intentionally, the cold woke him, the October cold of the staked plains that descended before dawn and retreated only when the sun climbed high enough to overrule it. He lay in his blankets outside the camp perimeter and heard many horses begin.
You cannot carry mourning in a book. Your God's house is too small. Your God's house is too small.
The song.
Your God lives in a book.
Stone's Comanche was limited, and many horses' dialect was archaic, the ceremonial language of a tradition that preceded the modern Comanche by generations. Stone did not understand the words. He understood the sound. The sound was not chanting. The sound was prayer. Prayer of the kind that Stone had spent his life attempting to produce. Genuine, unmediated communion with the sacred. Subscribe. When a preacher who spent 3 years trying to fill what he thought was spiritual absence hears the dawn chorus and discovers the Comanche were full all along, the hidden prophet revealed will shatter everything about what the sacred truly means. Many horses stood facing east, arms raised, singing into the approaching light. His voice, old, thin, sustained by decades of dawn practice, rose in melodic phrases that tracked the sun's ascent. When the first edge of the sun broke the horizon, the song changed, shifted key, increased in intensity, the melody matching the light's arrival with a precision that could not be accidental. The song and the sunrise were synchronized. One did not cause the other. Both participated in the same event.
I heard it. Not with my missionary's ears, with my prayer ears. The ears I use when I'm alone in the dark and speaking to God without an audience. Many Horses' dawn song was the most authentic prayer I had ever heard. more authentic than my own, more authentic than any I had heard in 20 years of churches. And I could not, my theology could not acknowledge it as prayer. Because acknowledging it meant acknowledging that God was present in a Comanche dawn circle. And if God was present here, then what was I doing bringing him as though he were absent?
The crack. Stone's theology, his certain, structural, load-bearing belief that the Comanche was spiritually empty, cracked at the dawn chorus. Not because many horses argued against it, because many horses demonstrated against it. The old man's prayer was undeniable. Its authenticity was the kind that cannot be manufactured, cannot be taught, cannot be produced by a man who does not genuinely stand in the presence of something he considers sacred. The protagonist was wrong. The Comanche were not godless. The Comanche were not waiting for salvation. The Comanche had a direct, living, daily relationship with the sacred, expressed not in books and buildings, but in dawn songs and horse prayers and the continuous breathing conversation between human beings and the world that sustained them. Stone went to many horses. Not to preach. The preaching had been emptied out of him by the dawn chorus, the way water empties from a vessel that has been struck. He went to listen. He sat outside the medicine man's lodge and waited, the Comanche method of requesting audience. You sat, you waited. If the person wanted to speak, they came out. If not, you left. Many horses came out. He was 62, small, a man whose physical authority had been replaced, incrementally over decades, by spiritual authority of a density that Stone could feel, the way you feel heat from coals that are no longer glowing but are not yet cool.
I came to bring you God. I have been here 15 days and I have not given you anything. You have given me something. Your dawn song. It is prayer. I know prayer. I have prayed for 20 years. Your prayer is... I cannot find the word. It is connected. Connected to the sun, to the ground, to the air. My prayers go up. Yours go everywhere.
Blackcoat, you bring a God in a book. My God is in the morning. You cannot carry morning in a book. I do not say your God is false. I say your God's house is too small. Your God lives in a book. My God lives in the world. The world is larger than a book.
The hidden prophet, revealed. Not hidden in the sense of concealed, hidden in the sense of invisible to Stone's lens. Many horses was not a prophet in the Christian sense. He held no office, delivered no prophecy, represented no institutional authority. He was a prophet in the Comanche sense, a man whose personal medicine power had been cultivated over 60 years of dawn prayer, vision quests, and direct relationship with the living world, until his connection to the sacred was as visible as sunrise. Stone had spent 15 days looking for a conversion opportunity and had been standing in the presence of the sacred the entire time. The outsider's transformation. Stone did not convert to Comanche spirituality. His Christian framework was too deeply structural to dismantle. But the framework expanded. The room inside it grew larger. The walls moved outward to accommodate the possibility that the sacred existed in places his theology had declared empty. On the 16th morning, Stone knelt in the dawn prayer circle. Not as a convert, not as a participant in a ceremony he didn't understand. As a witness, a man whose understanding of the sacred had been permanently enlarged by a Comanche medicine man's pre-sunrise song. He knelt because kneeling was his body's instinct in the presence of the sacred, and the dawn chorus had convinced his body, if not yet his theology, that the sacred was present.
The black coat kneels. He does not sing. He does not know the song. But he feels it. This is the difference between his first day and today. On the first day, he spoke. Today, he listens. Listening is the beginning of understanding.
Subscribe. There's more Ranchers' honor stories where certainty cracked and something larger grew. More frontier tales where the sacred was never absent, but only invisible to the wrong lens. And more Chronicles where the Wild West's deepest prophets needed no book, no building, and no congregation. Preacher quoted scripture to Comanche stars. Dawn chorus revealed hidden prophet. The prophet was many horses, singing at dawn, every dawn, for 40 years. Stone looked for an empty vessel and found a full one. The outsider's education was recognition. The sacred does not require his permission to exist. It exists in the dawn chorus, in the space between a human voice and the morning. The preacher's certainty cracked. What grew in the crack was larger than what it replaced.